welcome to the Art of Benching. This is number 10, and come on, don't you just love all those pictures of the Shaumbra benching? It's just been one of the most fun intros we've ever done. But now we're here for Adamus to share with us. And Jeff is getting ready, and it appears that Adamus is right here in the house. So with that, as always, let's start with the good deep breath, that conscious breath of life. Let the energies flow. Breathe it in, breathe the air. Let it expand. Expand within, expanding out. This is your conscious breath. Breathe the I am here, I exist. Breathe presence. Take the good deep breath. Feel the energies of Adamus. He's here for each of us, always. Breathe it in. Be with it. Allow it. Stay with this good deep breath as we start this channel. Breathe for you.
I am the light. Adamus of sovereign domain. Let's take a good deep breath with that. Beautiful energies to open this shout together with. I am the light. That's what it all boils down to. Before we go any further, let's start this shout with a short marab. Number 2, please, on the marab music selection. A short marab, which I hadn't planned to do, but let's do it anyway. Lights ready. Oh, before the marab, more important things. Coffee. Coffee. And I travel all this way, millions, billions of miles to get here, and at least I can have a cup of coffee to start the day. And that's so interesting. Thank you.
You don't get the tray.
I don't get the tray. Thank you so much.
Should I take your kombucha back? Or?
Calder's drinking that.
I hear it helps you poop. So it's very
Would you like some?
I had some.
Yeah. My last lifetime for a short time, I dated a witch, and she tried to get me to drink that kombucha stuff. I was afraid I was going to turn into a mushroom or vinegar or one of the two. Why anybody drinks that? When you have perfectly good coffee and wine to drink, why would one want to drink kombucha? But I guess Calder identifies with it. Well, I don't understand why, but he does. Before we go any further, let's start out with a beautiful marab. We'll end with a marab also, but as I was gathering up all the energies for this shout, gathering the energies from Shaumbra around the world in this group, as you all came together riding on the notes and the energy of the music, I said, let's do this first. Let's take a good deep breath together as we begin. Realizing what you're really here for, what you're really doing, the magnitude of the work. I don't even like to call it work, maybe not the right word, the magnitude of your endeavors here on the planet, what you're doing. It's sometimes even difficult to comprehend in your human mind, and particularly when you still have some of the past, the ghosts of the past, when it hasn't been given over to wisdomizing, when you're still playing with some of the old issues, tinkering with them, intentionally holding on to them, in spite of your screaming and yelling. Sometimes it's difficult to realize the magnitude of what you're doing. Well, it's real easy to slip into the consciousness of, I'm just trying to make my way, I'm just struggling along. And no. This small group of Shaumbra, this pirates from around the world, it's much more than that. Much more. It's an interesting experience, game even, to pretend that you're still just a human trying to make your way through I just look forward to that moment when you really realize the magnitude. Actually, it might be overly frightening to realize the magnitude of what you're doing. Maybe you'd be so overwhelmed by it that it just zap you into your light essence out of your physical body. This is something that we've planned for a long, long time. It didn't happen by coincidence that you just came to the Crimson Circle. It wasn't a coincidence that Tobias came along at just the right time. It wasn't coincidence that this group coalesced in a way I've really never seen with any type of esoteric group, especially since there aren't any rules or dues or anything like that, but this group came together, bonding with each other on so many different levels, not just the human realm, but also we work together in the dream realms. I ask you to just feel in for a moment the magnitude of what this group is doing and what you're doing here also. It's often buried under the everyday hassles of life. It's buried under feelings of guilt or shame, but there's truly a reason, a purpose. I go so far as to say heroics in what you're doing here on the planet. For ages and ages, there have always been groups that have sequestered themselves in caves or remote islands, distant lands, away from the hustle and bustle and the noise of mass consciousness, to do a single thing, and that's to maintain an energy connection between this planet and the other realms. Some of them worked specifically to maintain a connection with the angelic families that they came from, kind of like making sure that you could get back home in between lifetimes or at the end of your stay on this planet. There's groups that have done just nothing but meditating or praying, chanting, and their whole lifetime dedicated to maintaining an energy balance on the planet. Those groups are now, for the most part, gone. There are still a few around the planet, not too many, because now it's about being an embodied master, being with others, not sequestered in some cave somewhere, but being right here in the midst of others. Being here to do a very simple, beautiful thing, allowing your light to shine. I am light. And I allow that light to go forth without agenda. You're the ones now who have come to take over the jobs from the groups who did energy holding and maintained links between here and the other realms. That also helped Gaia maintain a pulse and a compatibility and a resonance with humans and other life forms on the planet. Their jobs are mostly gone now, mostly done, being replaced now by the ones who shine their lights. And that's you. The magnitude is truly spectacular. I know there are so many days where you just don't realize it, or you think perhaps too grandiose, but I ask you now to feel into your heart, into your mission, into your purpose for being here. This is the culmination. Eons of time, of the dreams of the Atlanteans, of the hopes of those who were there at the time of Yeshua, planting the Christ seed, now culminating right here in this beautiful time of the machines. A time when the planet really appears to be crazy, but it's just going through its changes. Take a deep breath and feel into why you're really here. It's not the career that you chose. That's nice. It's not the family that you came in with. The real reason is to simply bring consciousness to this planet. And I'll use a term today, we'll discuss it. I'm going to call it overhead consciousness. Overhead consciousness, because it goes over the heads of most people. It goes over the heads of even you sometimes, but we're going to talk about it today. It means a higher form of consciousness, a higher level, a 30,000-foot view of consciousness. When you're shining your light, it's not just to affect things like the economy. I mean, it does have an effect, as you can see. Look what you're creating out there. Or politics or causes. Those are rather mundane and quite ineffective, but we're dealing with overhead consciousness. Again, we'll talk about that today, but right now, I ask you simply to feel into the magnitude. Ask your soul here. Ask your soul. Dear soul, what is the magnitude of what we are doing here on the planet right now as masters? What is the magnitude of what we, you and I, soul, are doing here? And listen for a moment. By the way, your soul has good sense of humor. It's got a better sense of humor than the human usually. Human often has a stick up their butt. The soul has no butt for for the stick to go. So when you ask the soul, tell me about the magnitude of what I'm doing. Share with me. And the soul does that head smack. It's like finally you're asking, finally you're understanding. Let the soul share with you for a moment and the real magnitude. You might say, well, that's an incredible responsibility, a huge burden to carry. Not really. Not really. It's not really a responsibility. It's actually more of a true passion. You're not carrying the burden of the world on your shoulders. Quite the opposite. You're letting it go. So let's take a deep breath. So it's a new word I'd like to add to the Shaumbra lexicon phrase, and that's overhead consciousness. The other one is simply, oh, that's why I'm here. Oh, that's why I'm here. We've talked about it in some of the recent shouts, explaining kind of what's happening. Oh, that's why I'm here. I'm not here to suffer. I'm not here to create new causes. I'm not here just to see what the hell happens. That's why I'm here. I've got a purpose. I bring this up during this show today because where we're going after this series, into our next series, there's not any room for processing, whining, I'm sorry, some of you are like, oh no, what am I going to do? Complaining, excuses. There's really not. Because where we're going in this series after benching is into really the deeper realms. And you can't bring that crap with you. You don't want to. I mean, it's hellish if you do. It's kind of like what we talk about in the threshold. You try to bring your issues into realization, and it just is hell. Our next series is going to be titled ALT, A-L-T. ALT as in alternative realities, alternative probabilities and potentials, alternative dimensions, alternative paths for doing things, ALT. It's also ALT, the real original name for Atlantis, ALT. So where we're going in that next series, there's truly no room for the garbage. Now, Shaumbra, for the most part, have gotten rid of a lot of the Makyo, but there's still some. We're going to do a little bit of have fun today, and we're going to create a document that basically defines how we go forward. But first, before we do that, let's take a deep breath and let's practice. Oh, that's why I'm here. Oh, that's why I'm here. Good. It's pretty easy. Oh, that's why I'm here. I get it. Some of them are sleeping out there. Okay. Oh, that's why I'm here. Not that tough to do, right? Okay. Let's start by talking about freedom. Freedom. How appropriate Linda's dressed for the occasion.
It's Freedom Weekend.
Yeah, Freedom Weekend.
Sovereignty.
Independence Day. So, 4th of July in America, Independence Day. I'll talk more about my involvement.
Of course you will. Of course.
But I want to talk a little bit about freedom. I never forget the moment, and I tell the story often at the Ascended Masters Club. I'd only been with Shaumbra a matter of months, perhaps, when I asked the audience one day in my questioning, do humans really want freedom? And a pause came over the audience, just like right now. And I saw people shaking their heads. Yeah. And I waited with theatrical pause, waited, baiting them at the time. And I finally said, not really. And the look on the faces, the change in the energy that swept across the room, all of a sudden turning from dear friends of mine into adversaries. I could feel the loathing and the disdain. I could feel the ugliness as it shot up from your eyes onto me. What are you talking about, Adamus? Yes, humans want freedom. And I said, no, actually, I don't think they do. I think they want a little bit more ease in their life, a little bit more circus, a little bit more beer, a little bit more football. They want a little bit of that. But true freedom? No. Very few people could actually handle it. They need the defining roles that they play. They need the defining type of jobs. Believe it or not, people want their governments. I know they like to complain about them, but they need them because these are the kind of I guess you would say the comforts and also the distractions from true freedom. True freedom is tremendous responsibility. You can't be complaining and blaming things on conspiracies if there's true freedom. On your families, on your mates, on anything else, on boogeymen, on demons or anything else. True freedom, the responsibility is all yours. And it's also accepting that the energy is yours. So true freedom, no. If they really did, there would be a lot more freedom on the planet. Now, that being said, there is an increasing trend on the planet for people to start pursuing the path to freedom. We talked about it before using this acronym STEP. Sovereignty, which is freedom, sovereignty. These are the major influences that are going on the planet right now. You can track everything to these 4 simple things that are going on, but sovereignty or freedom. More and more people now are seeking freedom, but they're very confused about what freedom is. They go through a lot of iterations. They go through a lot of, they do a lot of protesting, for instance, for the sake of freedom, but they really don't quite understand what it is. But yet it's gaining momentum, this freedom passion with humans. And I can very clearly state that it's because of you, of Shaumbra, and some others who have gone that path first. You know what it's like, when you realize you can't blame it on anybody else. You can't point the finger at any other group or person or family or anything else. Freedom is accepting your responsibility, the fact that you are creating it. But there's more and more people on the planet right now that are starting to pursue freedom or sovereignty. That's a long, hard path. It sounds so glorious, freedom, but then all of a sudden, it means I got to take it, all the responsibility for everything. Lack of abundance, health, bad childhood, whatever it is, freedom is taking responsibility. And then I say in the truest form of freedom, it's laughing at everything that's happened. It's laughing, being able to laugh at it at the end. And then we have the step, sovereignty, truth, humans searching for truth, energy, and then power. Those are the key influences happening on the planet right now. And the biggest one I would say is freedom, true freedom. How many people on the planet, what percent are really wanting true freedom? Really true freedom? Less than 1% on the whole planet. Almost, 7 billion people now. You keep making babies down here. I can't keep count anymore. But a very, very small number of people really want freedom. But yet, there are those who are now thinking about it, feeling it. There's those who are going through the internal kind of a strife, saying, there's got to be more. There's got to be more to this being on the planet as a human. There's got to be more ways to express myself. They're at the early stages of truly allowing freedom, but it's a long road. You know that. It's a very long road. You go through all the iterations, you go through all the aggravations of it. You think you know what freedom is. It's a nice buzzword, and then suddenly, boom, it falls apart. And then you get up again and try more freedom, and it almost seems like the more you're trying for freedom, the more that the prison, the zoo, will hold you back. The more you desire to get out of the zoo, the more it tries to hold you in. Or a better way of saying it, the more you try to get away from your family, the more they draw you back. But freedom is such a prevailing trend on the planet right now. I wanted to bring this up because it is the 4th of July coming up here in America. Let's talk about America. Linda's dressed for the occasion. I remember when she dressed up as the Statue of Liberty. That got me going. I mean, as an ascended master, things don't get me heated up real often, but that Statue of Liberty thing, that green coating on your body, Caldra had to push me off to the side. But let's talk about America for a moment. I was deeply involved in it. In my last lifetime, suddenly everybody in the room is yawning. I want to tell my story. And everybody online too. Oh, here we go again. On my last lifetime as Adamus, Saint Germain. I traveled a lot. And I told you, I never worked, never had a job. And yes, to those that are noticing it, I just did do that new Adamus on topic, the Great Work Walkout. You're saying, how could you even talk about jobs and work when you never worked? That's why I can talk about them, because I didn't have to work. That's the point I'm trying to make, So, America. I traveled throughout Europe, parts of Africa, Asia, spent a lot of time in the Middle East. Yes, I actually sat in the king's
Oh,
chamber
sure,
of the great.
sure, of course.
Well, so did you, but I did it first. And so did Yeshua. Did you realize when you and Caldera were sitting there, Yeshua parked his ass right in that same room?
No, but that's cool.
It's very cool. Yeah. Yeah. It was uncomfortable. He didn't stay there long, but there was no nice chairs and benches. But just
There still aren't.
Still aren't.
No.
Does it still have that kind of urine odor up there? Yep. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that being said,
That's not the memory I held on to.
holy places, that's what I remember. Anyway, let's talk about America. So I traveled throughout Europe. Europe was in transition at the time. This was the 1700s. There was still a lot of the old royal energy. There was a lot of the kingdoms. There was kings and queens and royals, and this has been going on for a while. But what really aggravated me, feeling that there was this change coming about Europe, it had to be kind of change. Just like there's a change going on the planet right now. It's not a little change. It's 100 times the magnitude of what was happening in Europe back then. There's undercurrents. There's aggravations. There's a desire for something different. And, when humans get that desire for something different, but yet they don't know what they want, it's kind of dangerous. As we found out with the French Revolution, it's better to know you want change and have at least an idea of what you want rather than just to throw all the bums out or execute them, cut their heads off, and then go, oh, now what? Now what do we do? Now we got almost the same cast of characters coming back in and taking over power again. Nothing's really changed except their names and their faces. But there was this whole aggravation going on in Europe, and I spent a lot of time talking to the royals, the kings and the queens, and as well as the politicians, philosophers, and the leaders of the time, the scientists, and saying there's a change going on. And basically what this change is going to be more freedom, more equity. It's got to be a democratic way for this planet, for society and culture to evolve. People have to be able to vote. Even if they vote wrong, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that they get a vote in it. And then they can see the consequences of their actions. People are demanding to own their own land. They don't want to keep working for some lord and barely getting by. They want to own land. They want to own a house. They want to take pride in what they do. How can you have pride if you're working for somebody that doesn't acknowledge you on a soul-to-soul, a God-to-God basis? How can there be pride in that? In order for things to move forward, particularly because we just come off the Renaissance a few hundred years earlier, and there have been great changes in consciousness that reflected in the arts, that reflected in the invention of the steam engine and the sewing machine and the things now that are reflections or manifestations of consciousness. Consciousness changed dramatically in the Renaissance. But don't look to just the paintings that were done at the time or the inventions. Look at what I'm calling this overhead consciousness, the bigger picture of things. The royals kind of knew that something was coming. Of course, they're not just going to easily hand things over. There had to be kind of a long-term transition plan. But my greatest aggravation was with the peasants. The ones I thought I was defending, working for, nearly getting my head cut off a few times, in some of the courts of Europe for the crazy things I said, showing up, at the Vatican without clothes on, all these things I thought I was doing for the peasants. But to my great surprise, the peasants really didn't want the change. They thought about it. They knew that they wanted something different, but they were actually kind of comfortable being told what to do, how to run their lives, what they had to do each and every day of their lives, how many children they could have, what church they attended, what kind of job they would have. And this was terribly unsettling. terribly, because I knew ultimately in this whole transition that was occurring, it had to occur, this transition, they would be the ones losing out on it when they should have been the ones gaining. So when I say, do you really want freedom? Do humans want freedom? Sometimes it's just a little bit more circus and bread. We have the same thing happening on the planet right now, times 100, maybe times 1,000. That the changes are in the wind. The changes are the result of consciousness. We're just a small percent of humans on the planet, just like back in the times of the Renaissance. The changes are occurring right now as we speak, and the changes could be so good. But yet, as you have discovered, you've seen just with benching, shining your light, it shakes things up. Shining your light doesn't mean la-di-da, everything's going to be great. It means that we are now opening things up, and sometimes there is tremendous disruption on the planet. It's not your fault. I'm not trying to say that. It's simply the result of consciousness changing. Back in the times of post-Renaissance, again, there was a great new understanding, a great movement towards science and towards invention. And part of the kind of overhead consciousness in the invention of machines, like the steam engine, sewing machine, and ultimately all the things that came after that, was to free humans from labor tasks, from being donkeys and horses and doing these labor tasks. And it was interesting because as machines, steam machines, now engines that would automate things for humans, the loom, the automatic loom, these were things that saved humans from a lot of tedious labor. But what did humans do at the time when these machines started becoming predominant in factories? They went and burned the factories, destroyed the machines. And you could say it's because they didn't want to lose their jobs. They wouldn't have lost their jobs. They would have maybe taken on a new job, but machines do not take jobs. Whether it was the machines back from hundreds of years ago, whether it's the computers of today, they're not going to take the jobs. But yet, here we have humans burning down buildings and destroying the machines out of fear of losing their job. It wasn't that. The overhead consciousness was really about them fearing freedom. They would rather work at these tedious jobs, getting very low pay, than accepting the responsibility for their own freedom. On the surface, it looks like, oh, look at these poor people. Look at how the Luddites gathered and organized to destroy machines under the pretense of, well, we're going to lose our job. No, they're not. They're afraid of losing their prison. They're afraid of their own freedom. A lot of this is happening again right now, times 100. But back to the story of America and the reason I want to talk about this today. I realized that Europe probably wasn't going to change. Or if it did, it was going to take hundreds of years, and I didn't have the patience for it. So working with others, I said, let's set up then the new world, a place of the freedom experiment, a place where people from all around the world, no matter what culture, no matter what race or religion could come, we'll throw them all in the same pot and see what the hell happens. It was a little bit more eloquent than that, but I made numerous trips to America. Now, I want to be very clear with all of you, and particularly those of you watching in. We're not promoting America, and it's not about patriotism. I'm certainly not a fan of nationalism other than in sports, because it can be ultimately very destructive. And America is one of those places you love and you hate. You know, it's loved around the world for so many things, and it's resented around the world. But one thing about America that I helped to set up is that you can come here for the most part from anywhere. There was only the First Nations people here in the beginning, and they came in from all over Europe and ultimately Asia, Africa, all over the world, to be here as part of this freedom experiment. And the freedom experiment has done a lot of good in the world, but yet it has a long way to go. You can come here from anywhere, and it doesn't really matter. Yes, there's a lot of turmoil right now happening in this country, but we're gonna talk in a minute about the overhead consciousness view, the bigger picture. When I worked with the founding fathers in helping to craft the Constitution, and that is a fact, I didn't build the entire Capitol building myself. I had some help, but I did help craft the Constitution behind the scenes, not wanting to stand out, and also didn't want to become a citizen here. I knew I had a few short years to live on the planet, and I wanted to go back to Europe. This was designed as a place for people to come for their freedom, and to this day, you're still seeing it. There's probably more freedom, arguably, some of you, more freedom than anywhere. You have the freedom here to do pretty much what you want. And what you're seeing right now in this country, particularly with the recent abortion ruling, well, it has nothing to do with is abortion good or bad. It's about taking of a freedom. Now, that's going to backfire. The pendulum's going to swing the other way. There are some who want kind of limited freedom. To me, it's an oxymoron. They want a little bit of freedom, but not all. When you're in a country like this, or any country that has the same type of energy dynamics, freedom is freedom. Freedom to carry a gun. We're not making statements about guns, and it doesn't matter how you feel about it, but can a country be so free as you can have a gun? Or be so free as to have abortion? To be so free as to really allow freedom in every possible way. And that's what's happening in this country right now. Interesting to note that America was set up not with Christian principles, but rather with Masonic principles. Deep at the core of this country, etched into so many of the monuments in Washington, D.C. and other places around the country, are Masonic principles. That doesn't mean they oppose Christian principles, but there's a lot who think this is a Christian country. But if you go into the overhead consciousness, the big view, it was the Masonic principles. And those principles are based on sacred energies and freedom, ultimately freedom. Now, that being said, the Masons of today are not like the ones back then. And yes, I was part of that. There are groups who remain very quiet, very, very quiet, who still carry on the pure Masonic and what were originally the pure Christian values. And to me, that was probably the best of all, the Gnostic Masonic principles. The principles of the Christian church prior to about 350 AD. That combined with Masonic principles and the Masonic understandings of astrology and geometry and the real sciences of energy are outstanding, and they're still here at the core of this country, but ultimately about freedom. I talk about freedom today because it's something that each and every one of you has dealt with and encountered your own freedom from yourself, from mass consciousness, from families, from old ways of thinking, old belief systems, true freedom. And it's a bitch. It's a bitch. You want to hang on to some of it. You want to say, well, I'm going to hang on to these certain things, and I'm going to be free over here, but I'm going to keep hanging on. And the freedom dragon is going to show you there's no hanging on to anything. Ultimately, everything comes back to you. By the way, as an aside, so if it hadn't worked out here in the U.S., the United States of America, for the freedom experiment, what would have been the next country that was being set up to accommodate it? Aotearoa, Australia. Yes. And to me, it was always a big joke because that was kind of a big prison colony. But what a better place. To all the Aussies, you understand, what a better place to do the freedom experiment. Now, it wasn't exclusive. It didn't mean if it didn't work here, then it would go there, or if it worked here, Aotearoa was out. But because Aotearoa is going through its own experiments in freedom, as are many other places in the world. But back to the point. Do humans really want freedom? I think they're very confused about it. I think, yes, there are some who definitely understand it, and you almost can't turn back now. Once you start on the true freedom path, you almost can't turn back because you realize at your core, in your heart, you are a true sovereign soul and a sovereign being. Let's take a good deep breath with that. Freedom. It is one of those overhead consciousness things that's taking place right now on the planet. You don't read about it in the news. You don't even read about it in the esoteric journals. But it's one of the big factors that's shaping and shifting the planet right now. When you shine your light, this is kind of the big picture thing that it goes out to: freedom. Freedom. By the way, just a few more interesting things about America. And again, love it or hate it, doesn't matter, but it's a great experience that's taking place. People came here from all over the world in the pursuit of freedom. Now, originally, it was said to be religious freedom, freedom to worship where you want, but it was really more than that. It was freedom from the royal system, from the kings and the queens. It was a freedom to create one's own laws in harmony with man and nature. That was the real driving force for the ones who first came here. Then religion, of course. People came here from all over Europe and Africa. Now, it's interesting because there's so much turmoil in the United States right now over the race issue with blacks and blacks and whites and all the other races. But it's interesting to note that the Africans that came here came and took on the role as slaves. But they were really coming here to understand freedom. That's the overhead consciousness of it. That's the big picture. None of these things really happened by mistake, and you can blame it on the Dutch or the English or whoever for slavery, but the Africans who first came here really were pursuing their own freedom, even though it was under the guise of slavery. What better way to help you understand the freedom of your soul than to be enslaved by another? What better way to really understand absolute freedom? And that's what they did. And you could say, well, no, they were abused, they were taken here, and they were sold by each and other's tribes, and there was a soul agreement for them to come here to America, this place of freedom, and to eventually be free of slavery. But it's also interesting to watch right now the dynamics that are taking place on the stage of life. I did a study recently and found that about 53% of all the, what do they call it, Black Lives Matter, the race, black race activists, I went and did a little research at the great big library in the sky and found that 53% of them were slave owners in their last lifetime. That's overhead consciousness. That's the bigger picture. So they come here with their guilt of being a slave owner. And what do? They take on the activism, which is good. It's good for them. It keeps things moving here for eventual, real, true freedom for everyone. You can really document all the movements of races and cultures that came here, and religions, and realize that they were coming here to really begin that path to their freedom. The Asians that came over with the building of the railroads in America in the 1800s, it wasn't just to build railroads, it was to It was to leave these dynasties that they were part of, these countries that were so held tightly by rulers or royals. They came here for freedom. So often in the news or with debates in humans, they focus on the smaller human, and not small, they focus on some of the more limited human issues without looking at the overhead consciousness of what's happening on the planet, why certain things. And then they point fingers and they blame and they take up their causes. The work that you're doing here, that's why I'm here, work, is about that overhead consciousness, understanding there's a bigger picture to everything that's happening. And ultimately you realize there's really no abuse. There's really no abuse that's taking place. And people will argue with me about that, but there's not. I contend that there's simply a better way people could have done things. Do you really need to go to America as slaves to discover freedom? It's a lot of suffering. Suffering for the ancestors that came here, that worked in the cotton fields, that were subjected to cruelty. But perhaps there was a better way to have discovered freedom. Let's talk a little bit about overhead consciousness and meaning the big picture, what's really going on the planet, the big movements. There's this, and this is what you're here for. This is what you're shining your light onto. It's not politics and not really the economy. Oh, the economy. The economy is one of those, again, reflections of what's happening on the planet. And one thing I'm going to tell each and every one of you, do not worry about the economy falling apart. It may not. Don't worry about it because it shouldn't affect you. No, it shouldn't. It should not affect you. You should be in a higher consciousness. You should be down in there in the gutters and the pits with the rest of humans worrying about every day, is that the economy going to fall apart? It's fallen apart before, it'll fall apart again, and then each time it evolves, it goes to a whole new level. It's changing, certainly, and it had to. The momentum for all these things that are happening on the planet, the economy, which in a large part is changing because of what? COVID, a huge change for the economy. All these things are in the works, and if you look at the overhead consciousness, the big picture, you realize, this had to be. This had to be. It had to be with all the movements. And I know there's some who, they're afraid of changes or what might happen or that, but rise above it and realize that these movements, just like the Renaissance moved things that happened 100, 200 years later, the movement right now that's taking place on the planet is because of consciousness that got it moving. And it's going to affect technology, economy, healthcare, just about everything in life. Let's talk about some of the other big picture, the overhead consciousness. One I've talked about before is this old consciousness of suffering. I'm really sick and tired of suffering on this planet, but yet humans have just accepted it. It's the way of being. You have to suffer. You're human, you suffer. How many of your parents told you, well, it's just the way it is. You got to suffer until you get to heaven, if you're lucky enough. And then all the glories. And it's like, why wait, Mom? I don't want to wait to go to heaven. I want it right now. But humans have been ingrained in this kind of a septic consciousness that they have to suffer. And they don't. The very work that we're doing with the light is changing suffering to joy, but there's a lot who are still holding on to it. They think, they believe, and they continue to act out that we got to suffer our way up the hill, got to suffer our way through life, and you don't. Let's change that. I mean, in the overhead consciousness, knowing the big story, let's shine our light everywhere, but and not trying to make people change, but saying, you don't have to suffer anymore. You don't. You don't have to suffer, particularly religions. You don't have to suffer. God doesn't want you to suffer. But that's one of those big overhead things. The economy is another one. And I don't want to get into economics, but the movement of financial energies. And people are so sure that some have it, others don't, that they're never going to have enough, that there is a conspiracy, that it's the bank or it's the Federal Reserve. Shut up. It is just the movement of energy. That's all it is. And everyone's entitled to all they want. That's the overhead consciousness. Everybody can have it. But you can't blame others when you don't. You can only blame yourself. You can only say, I'm not allowing abundance into my life. So we don't get involved in what bank did what and the Federal Reserve rate or any of those other things. The overhead consciousness is about, let's change the old consciousness from lack and limitation and only a small group having it. Let's stop attacking the ones who have it. They were smart enough to have it. It just perpetuates the whole thing like, oh, it's really bad to have money. No, it's not. It's just energy. That's the overhead consciousness of what things were changing. The other one is biology. The human body. People just accept, well, I'm a human. This is me. They identify with a body. They identify with a carbon-based reality. Well, that's total bullshit. I mean, it's in the overhead consciousness. No, it's just where angelic beings happen to land or embed their consciousness. And now they got a physical body and they think the physical body is them. It's not. As I talk about in our Pronost update coming out soon, coming to your home, July 14th. The overhead consciousness is, it doesn't matter if you have a body. You can embody your consciousness, your being, into anything. Ultimately, it's light. It's not biology. It's not carbon-based. You don't disappear when you die. Dying is such a frickin' relief sometimes. But people are afraid of death. So they stuff themselves more in their body, and their body hurts. And it's like, no, the overhead consciousness is you can embody in anything you want. Whether it's carbon-based, your biology, whether it's technology, which I talk about in the soon upcoming on July 14th Pronost update. It doesn't matter. You can embody in another being, like a bird, if you want. You can embody in another reality that's not even explainable in human terms. But humans are so focused on the body. This is me. And it's like, God gave me this body. God stuffed me in here. No. Yeah, it's like you took it on, but you can also get out anytime you want. Or have an overhead consciousness of compatibility with this carbon-based system that you have. It's really not yours anyway, but you're inhabiting it so you can have a little bit of harmony and bring in the light body. These are the big picture things. We're not here to focus on specific things like, cleaning up the oceans. It's great. And ultimately, the consciousness that you radiate will ultimately inspire other people to do that. And it is needed, a responsibility for the environment. But we're not here to try to raise arms against those who are polluting. Others will take that role. You don't need to do it. You're here for the overhead consciousness, the big picture of things that are happening on the planet. And I'll remind you from time to time, because it's easy to get caught up in the small things. It's easy to get caught up in the politics of the planet or the economies or jobs or anything like that. It's not our job. We're here for overhead consciousness over the heads of most people. Let's take a good deep breath with that and feel into that for a moment. The real big picture. There's no causes in it. There's no battles in it. It's simply understanding the dynamics of what's happening, the energy trends on the planet. And then letting the light shine out to that. where we're going in our next series into alt is many alternative potential realities that can be taking place simultaneously here on this planet or in other places. And that's why I say there's no place right now for your lack of freedom. There's no place for dragging old issues, blaming others. There's no place for poor me. There's no place for victims or abusers in this. We're here to do clean, pure, and sacred work of consciousness while staying here in the physical body. So let's take a good deep breath. Now, speaking of freedom and independence, you're staying here on the planet, I assume, as embodied masters. Sometimes I wonder, it would be a lot easier just coming to the other side. It really would be. I mean, you don't have to drag around the body. We don't have money there. We don't have lawyers. There's no ex-wives. Well, yeah, there are, but I have a few ex-girlfriends that are chasing me around. But sometimes I wonder, it's like, geez, you guys are really, either you're really stubborn or you're really amazingly sacred. I don't know which one it is, but no, we're going to stay on this planet. We're going to make it work. It's like, you can let it go anytime. Come on over. We're having a party tonight. Yeah. FM's going to be singing tonight, of all things. Yeah. Well, I may not be there for that. But anyway, as we go forward, it's imperative to have certain rights in your life. And I want to write those up today with the assistance from in the back there with Linda on the microphone. We're going to craft this into an actual literal document like the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence. And this will serve as a guide for masters, embodied masters on the planet. It's your right, things you have a right to, things that you're acknowledging as your right to stay here. And again, we'll make this into a beautiful document. I'll sign it and send it to whoever wants. So we'll call it the Acknowledgement of Embodied Masters' Rights, or just Embodied Masters' Rights. And I'll throw the first one out there, and then I want to get your input. We'll write it down. We'll craft it and refine it, and then turn it into a beautiful document. So you have the right as a master to abundance, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no, well, I don't know how to make money. Shut the fuck up. I want that in the document, by the way. No, I'm sorry, but swear words don't bother me. They just bother.
Could you talk to Jeff about that?
It doesn't bother him. He's knocked out. He's somewhere else. But sometimes I have to use words like that to say, get over it. You have the right to abundance, period. No two ways about it. And then the human mind jumps in, well, I don't know how to, and I never had, and the man has it, and the conspiracy has it, and the Federal Reserve, and the aliens. No. I want you to acknowledge right now you have the right to it. And the moment you acknowledge that, no ifs, ands, or buts, the moment you acknowledge this is my right to be abundant on the planet as an embodied master, all the energies then change. If you butt it to death and you're like, but I don't know what to do, but maybe Crimson Circle will give me the money, and it's like, then you're butting it, and the energies are still going to be all wacky.
Do you mean B-U-T or B-U-T-T?
And both, yes. But no, humans butt things all the time, and that, you're off to a good start by saying, I have the right to abundance, period. But, and then all the energy gets skewed up again. So I have the right to abundance, period. And you do. Every one of you has that. So let's put that as one of the rights, the right to abundance. Good. Okay, now Linda's going to go to the microphone and ask you what else goes on the list here. Your right as an embodied master on the planet.
Didn't work. I was winking at you thinking, if you acknowledge you skip me. Didn't work.
What else goes up on the board there?
The ability to blink and go anywhere I want.
You say that again?
You know.
And can we have
blink
the
my eye.
microphone? Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Well, I would like to have the freedom to teleport wherever I want to go.
Is that important?
Yes.
I can show you how to do it, but you're not going to take your physical body.
Doesn't matter.
You identify with your body, and don't. It's a lack of freedom. Don't. Realize it's yours and it's there temporarily. But if you think you have to go to another reality and take your body, you're over-identifying with something that is not really you. So I'm not even going to put that on the board. I'm not going to acknowledge it because that's total bullshit. You want to go anywhere, you can at any time you want. You can break through realities anytime, but don't expect to take your biology. And if you do, you're missing, you need to go back to Adamus 101 and understand you are not your body. You're a soul. You'll put your consciousness into a carbon-based atomic structure temporarily, but you're not going to be hauling that all over the frickin' universe with all of its aches and pains and its potential for cancer and it's getting old and peeing in your own pants and all the rest. Why do you want to take that with you? And I'm giving you a hard time, but I want to make it very clear. You can transport anywhere you want. You can go into the other realms. That's what Merlin does. Merlin can go into the realms, but you are not a physical being at core, at your very nature. Now, you want to travel? Thank you. You want to travel? We can do it. It's so easy. We talk about it in the upcoming Pronos 2022 update coming out July 14th. But we do it without having to take this physical thing around, okay? It's easy to do. We will be doing it, in Kihak in particular. We can go into the other realms. The other interesting thing is you're not going to take your brain with you, thank God. But, you're going to want to. No, I got to take my brain and my body with me. No, they're like ugly stepsisters. You know, you don't want to bring them to the party with you. They're going to ruin the whole thing. But we will be doing that. It's all a matter of consciousness and bringing our consciousness to wherever you want. That's real freedom. Good, thank you. We're not going to put that on the board and pretend it never happened. Okay, what next? Your Bill of Rights has an embodied master.
Why be a human if to be a human you must interact with other humans. So I have the right to hang out with humans who can meet me where I am.
Not going to happen. This is going to be tougher than I ever thought. I thought we'd just breeze right through it. What I'm feeling in the energy is you want everybody to be like you, and it's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
No, but I want a few. I want a few.
Okay.
You know?
Not going to happen, for the most part. Why hasn't it happened up to now?
Oh, I wasn't asking for it.
You weren't, but you're asking for it now.
Yes.
Okay. So, what does that look like? You want to marry somebody?
No.
He's like that.
An energetic harmony, co-resonance.
You friends?
Doesn't have to be.
No.
But people, meeting other people and kind of having a sense of we understand each other, we see each other, and in the totality.
Sure. Good luck on that.
Appreciation.
Calder is accusing me of being particularly brutal today. Duh. Yes.
I really don't think it's impossible. I think that.
Why do you want it in the first place?
Because it's fun. It's not lonely.
Maybe not lonely. Okay. Yeah, but I come down here once in a while, come to the shout, and then leave. I mean, go back.
Here I am.
I understand what you're saying, but I want you to get clarity. Is it really that important? What come up and hang around in the other realms?
No. Why engage in the human experience?
The genie gives you 3 wishes. You know, you rub the lantern, the genie gives you 3 wishes, and the first one is, I want to be surrounded by other humans.
No.
I'm exaggerating here, but it's like, geez, I would have picked something else for the board. I mean, I don't want to give you all the ideas here, but okay, let's run with it. So you want to be around kindred spirit.
Something like that, yes.
Okay.
Or I want to tap into that experience from time to time.
Okay. You come here anytime. You come to some of the gatherings, the workshops, yeah.
Yes.
So you kind of have that, but
Yes.
is it worthy of the board? We'll put it on there because I honor and respect you. We'll put it on there, but I wonder.
I think there's an aspect of leadership to that. You know, having that experience here,
Right.
and walking it out into the world and sharing the essence of that
Right.
with other people. I think. There's
How would
an
you phrase it for the board? I have the right to be around other people? I'm giving them a hard time. Yeah. I have the right to what?
It's something like being met. No, it's more than that. It's more than that.
Something like being able to spend quality time with peers?
Yes, but more.
More than that.
Yeah, more than that. Yes. Yeah, because it's a co-creation. It's a seeing
Okay,
other.
give me
masters.
like 8 words or less for the board here.
Help.
You have the right to.
No. It's more than that. It's more.
That I would put on the board.
What's the leadership point for you?
My experience is that when I see another person and I see right past the human and I see the potential for their beauty, their mastery, it pings that for them. Then they know.
Right to be honored for who I am by others?
Very good. Yes. Yeah. And there's a co-resonance in doing that together.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a good way of putting it.
Can you say that again, please?
Right to be honored for who I am by others.
So
How about the right to let myself shine or let myself be seen for who are ready to see me? Yeah. In other words, it's safe to be who you are. And this is really getting it good. It's safe to be who you are. There will be those who recognize you, Jim, and those who don't. And to those who don't, big deal. To those who do, then you have that resonance you were talking
So
about.
safe to be who you are is on the board?
Yes, I like that. And we'll do some additional crafting, but it was a good discussion. It got into the real overhead consciousness of the thing, the bigger picture. Absolutely the right to finally come out of hiding and be you, and just to let that light shine without having to be guarded. There will be those who recognize you for who you are, and many who don't. And to the ones who don't, that's fine. But to Jim's point, the ones who do will really recognize you, and it will be a soul-to-soul connection. Good.
Okay.
Oh, we
Next.
took yes.
To have healthy physical body,
To have a healthy physical body.
no suffering.
Yeah. Does that really belong on the board here?
Yes.
Absolutely, it does. That should have probably
Yes.
been number 2, but absolutely. Such an issue of the right to a balanced biology.
Yeah.
Balanced with your soul, balanced with your consciousness, and balancing itself all the time. In other words, constantly the carbon-based body, which it has all the capabilities to constantly rebalance, rejuvenate itself. But there are many factors that keep that from happening. One is just the low consciousness belief that people have that they have no control of their bodies. It's very low consciousness. We're going to go overhead and say, no, the body is going to, I have the right for the body to respond to my consciousness. Not my thoughts, not my little affirmations, but hey, body, I am the light. And you just say that yourself. I mean, don't have to say it out loud. I am the light, body. I am the light. And the body suddenly like, whoa, oh, wished I'd have heard that from you 50 years ago. We'd have done things different, but no, you were so busy taking all your weird stuff, and you're so busy hating me, and you're so busy fornicating and feeling guilty. What was I supposed to do? I was going to break down, you know? So you have the right to a balanced biology.
I remember
Mike, please. Just talking to it.
I remember a few years ago you said the temple for rejuvenation
Yeah,
is ready for us. So
absolutely.
we're all waiting. Where is it?
Where is it?
Where is it?
Where is it?
Adamus.
Who's on first? It's freaking. It's
Where is it?
There. It's there. Where is it? You're sitting on it. It's there. You have to fucking use it. Why is this so difficult to understand? Everything you need is there. Your abundance, your health. I don't see it. Where is it? Who has it? Somebody, how much do I have to pay for it? It's right there. I am the light. Body, rejuvenate. Take a little control. Do something. Allow it to happen. And
Do you need a glass of wine?
I need a glass of whiskey. I need a bottle of Jack Daniels. That's my compatibility relationship. Jack Daniels, that's my peer.
You can do more.
It's all there. What are you waiting for? And if you're not using it, and if you're like, nothing happened, shut the fuck up and make it happen. No, I'm serious. I go back to the Ascended Masters Club sometime, and I try to put on a smiley face. Oh, everything's wonderful with Shambhala. We're doing so well. I think, oh my God. They got all the tools in the world. And where is it? Who's got it? And it's like, use the Temple of Rejuvenation. Call it whatever you want.
Don't throw the mic at him. Don't.
Call it whatever you want. You got to use it. And if your body is not responding, go to overhead consciousness. Hey, I am the light. I am the master. I need this body as long as I'm staying here on the planet. I don't care what science says. And I don't care if people say that miracles aren't possible. Body, get your fucking shit together. I'm using some tough words.
I told
Sorry,
my body a
whoever
few
I
days
offended.
ago that in the morning.
Yeah, you do and yeah, you don't. There we go. Oh, no, pass it around first. Give me a shot. Give me a shot and then pass it around.
Okay, this
Yeah.
is it. What did you want? Whiskey or something?
What is that?
I don't even know. But
Oh, doesn't know what it is. Happens to be poison, Saint Germain's. But other than that, okay. We're gonna need some plastic glasses. That's good enough for me. After every plastic glasses or something, we're gonna have a toast at the end of this to our human Bill of Rights. Now, we go round and round. And it all comes down to this. Everything you need is there. I don't care if you call it a temple of rejuvenation, whatever you call it, your healing caves, whatever. Those are all distractions. You've got it all within you for your body to rejuvenate, for you to have abundance without working at it, without suffering through it. All these things are there. You have to just allow it. Let it be. But I do. No, you don't. You're still not allowing. You're still finding excuses, and you're still deferring and waiting for some intervention from me, from somebody, from something else. It doesn't matter.
Is it so hard to
No.
intervene?
No, it's not.
I'm kidding.
Quantum allowing, I guess, just to say, all right, I am the light, and I'm staying here on the planet. I got big work to do, and body, balance yourself. Now, you might get real sick for a week or two. You might be in bed. You might go a little wacko in the mind. It's part of the flushing out system. It's part of the cleansing that takes place emotionally and physically, and allow that. You just done a quantum allowing, saying, I'm going to let my body rebalance. Now, don't do this thing where you say, I want to look 50 years younger and I want to have a bigger or smaller parts. Whatever those parts happen to be, some bigger, some smaller. Don't do that. It's your body, it's your divinity embodied in biology, and let it do its thing. It knows how to balance. It's there to serve you. Don't start telling it that it has to look younger or that you want more energy. Shut up. Just allow the biological balance to take place. Yes, sir. Microphone from Linda or from Julia.
Are physicians a distraction then?
He's asking a question. Are physicians a distraction? And it depends. It depends how you use them. If you're going to the doctor for your healing, it's a distraction. If you're going to the doctor to kind of give you maybe a little reassurance or a little boost on the medical side, because technology is wonderful, it can do great things. But it depends how you're using it. If you're a slave to your doctor, in other words, you're saying he's the only one that can heal me, it's a distraction. Mm-hmm. If you're saying, yeah, I need a little boost. I mean, geez, I cut my arm. It wouldn't hurt to get some stitches in it, for instance, because all I have at home is a great big needle and a thread, and that I'll go to the doctor. And that's part of the healing. But you start relying on doctors or other therapies or other people or anything like that, and that's where you get in trouble. So where were we? Bill of Rights, a balanced physical biology. And it means you have a right to that. I mean, it is your right. And what we're going to do is assemble this. We probably are not going to get this done today once we start drinking. Does everybody have their, they're being passed around. But these are your rights. And to go forward in the work, in the fun we're doing, to go forward, you need to acknowledge these. I have the right to abundance. I have the right to balanced biology. And what else? Linda, go around the room, please.
Oh, I have to fulfill a bribe here.
Okay. How much did she give you?
$20, but she didn't take it.
She sells out for 20?
No, for me to get the microphone.
No, you gave her 20.
I gave her 20, but she
Right,
didn't
yeah,
take it.
but she should have said, sorry, 40.
I would have given 100.
I know. She said, okay. You got the mic.
Hi, Adamus.
Hi.
Well, he really distilled to like freedom,
Yeah.
but just to be more precise, to choose what experience and to choose to get out of a certain experience.
Okay. So how would you put that for our embodied master's rights? How would you state that?
Freedom to not be stuck.
Well, but you got it's being stuck in there. Just
The right to choose experience.
how about the right to creative expression? The right to creative expression.
The right to creative expression.
And that means you can jump into any experience you want and get out.
Yes.
Maybe the wording needs to also stipulate the right to be in creative expression or infuse in creative expression, and the right to get out.
Get out when it's not serving you.
I like that. Yeah. Or you could also use the word just life, the right to be in life experience and to get out when I choose.
Yeah.
Something like that. We'll fine tune the words, but that's a good one. You have the right to go into whatever experience you want, but the right to get out. The problem here on the planet is, you got here, and then people don't believe they have the right to get out of it, other than via death. They don't have the right to get out of a ancestral karma or so many other things, or their own past. People, this is, again, one of those overhead consciousness things. The belief in the planet is you did something, it's your history, and now you're stuck with it. Not true at all. You can get out of it anytime you want. And then what do?
First, to take a deep breath
Yeah.
and
Then you give it over to wisdom.
You give it over to wisdom, and
Yeah.
hopefully, like, that you don't go back towards the human unless.
Right.
Yes, basically, yes.
Okay, good. So in or out of life experience, well stated. Good.
Try not to think too much about it.
Right.
To leave it to the wisdom.
Right, absolutely.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Pleasure.
Good. How are we doing on the drinks? There's always this ghost voice in the background,
Well, cheers.
Not yet. No. We're gonna do it together. And those of you who are watching in online right now, go get a drink, even if you don't drink. Even if you used to drink too much and you stop drinking, you might want to drink. Freedom from being an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to go on our board. It probably should, actually, with this group. You're not an alcoholic anymore. Okay, Linda, microphone. Oh, yes.
Freedom to live in grace.
Freedom to live in grace. But let's define that, because otherwise it's kind of airy-fairy. What does that mean to you?
Let it come to you. No worries.
No, let's get
work at
specific
it.
in a real life way. I agree with you
Yes.
totally, but let's put this so the ones who come after you can also look at it and say, okay, that makes sense. Freedom to live in grace, but what does that mean?
In ease.
Grace and ease.
In ease. Just be.
But let's try to be more specific.
Okay.
The freedom to what?
To create. And
No, we
allow.
kind of have that. Freedom to.
Well, grace is when you allow abundance, allow all these forms with experience without
Right.
working at it, without suffering.
Right, without suffering. So
Without
let's
suffering.
let's come at it from the suffering angle. Humanity believes in suffering. Period. They want to believe in it. They love their suffering. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. They've infused suffering into the churches, and then the churches mimic it back to everybody. You've got to suffer. God wants you to suffer. Certain religions, the Jewish religion, it's all about suffering. Catholics, they're great sufferers. I mean, some of the other religions, not so much suffering, but a little bit. And it's like, in the society, tell you got to suffer, you got to work hard. Where did that come from? You don't have to work hard, but people believe it. So we're going to go into overhead consciousness. Oh no, you don't have to work hard. You can do things that you love to do. You can express your creativity, but work hard? No. So we're talking about suffering. How do you state it here on the board as your right to not suffer, but let's not use the word suffer?
Joy.
Your right to
Live
joyful
joyfully.
living, maybe.
Joyful
Yeah,
living.
I'd like a little more clarity on that, though. I want to. Choosing joy, but to live in joy. But how do we say, without saying the word suffering? How do we say no more suffering? Or maybe we just say it. Maybe the right to no more suffering. I guess
The laugh.
painless.
No.
Right.
Well,
Anybody?
I thought
in
about
on
the
this?
word grace. Yeah, but
Yeah. I mean, we're bordering on it, but there's.
Who's
I wanna
talking? We need this
def-
on the mic. Who's talking?
We wanted to find how are we doing on the drinks. Everybody?
Holy communion.
Okay, we're gonna wait till straight up 4:00.
It is already.
No, it's not. What time is it?
That clock is slow.
3:59. Okay, would you give us a 10-second countdown on a computer? It's already 4? All right,
That's
better
what I
drink
thought.
now. To freedom. True freedom. True freedom. Woo! Woo! Cheers. Here we go. More? Okay. Okay, let's continue on. This is going to get really interesting. On the board. Just put it right. We'll fine tune the words, but we want to find a way to say no more suffering. You have the right not to suffer. Yeah, but
Ease and grace.
but that doesn't state it clear enough that we've got to go beyond suffering. Humans are they're. Calder reminded me of something. We had a workshop back in France a number of years ago and had everybody bring a bottle of wine. And we started drinking the wine, everybody, including Caldera. And suddenly he realized that I hadn't been there in about 20 minutes. And he was just babbling on. So he's worried, is that going to happen now? Maybe. The right to humor. The right to humor. And in any situation, and you can write that on the board, the right to turn things over to wisdom at any point you're done letting those things dominate your life. Any old experiences, any bad memories, any guilt and shame, you have the right at any moment to turn those over to wisdom. That is a right. What else do we have? A couple more before we bring this to Marab.
I would say alignment.
Right to alignment with what? Other people?
With my inner source, with like alignment through emotions.
Right to connection, a conscious connection with your soul. Absolutely. Yes. And not just wondering about it, not just thinking, am I connecting? Or where's that's a very good one. A right to conscious connection with your soul. Every day, every moment. Good. Now we're getting there. What else?
I had a right to unconditional self-love.
Absolutely.
So we don't talk ourselves in, well, that was stupid.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah. And, most people do not, at their core, do not feel they have a right to love themselves. They really don't. And we go with this kind of the overhead consciousness. Yeah, we do have a right to love ourselves, and there's nothing shameful in it. And when the mind jumps in and says, "Well, you can't love yourself because you did all these bad things," it's shut the fuck up. Yeah. And you have a right. You have a right to feel and to know self-love.
Right, and make it unconditional.
An unconditional.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Got that for the board? Good one. Okay. Couple more. We definitely will continue refining the list. And we're going to ask for submissions from all of you watching and online too, so you feel like you're part of it. It's going to be a busy month for the staff. Yes, sir.
I'm still trying to wordsmith it myself, but freedom from abuse.
Yeah. How would you state that? I understand exactly what you're talking about. Freedom from abuse. How do we state that as one of your rights?
Right to take no more bullshit.
Right. Yeah. Right to be sovereign. But how do we state that in a? We'll rough it in here for now, and we'll probably craft the words some. But yeah, abuse. Humans accept the fact that you're going to get abuse in your life.
Where I'm headed is being free from other people's answers for themselves.
Right. Yeah. So.
Going back to dignity.
Yes, it's the right to dignity. Again, we'll craft these, but it's very. I understand exactly what you're saying. You don't have to take abuse from others, and why do people? Why do they get in that situation? It's a mass consciousness belief, and it's right in there with suffering that this just comes with life. No, it doesn't. If you're going to stay on the planet here, you have the right to pardon?
Release.
You have the right to release of what? Relief?
What he said. The belief of abuse.
Right. You have the right to live unencumbered by other people's crap. Something like that. David?
How about just the joyful experience of life?
Yes, ultimately, but I want these to be so clear. You know, if the Constitution of the United States or the Bill of Rights just said you have the right to freedom and that's it, you know, it had to be defined a little bit more. Let's get something tangible on paper that we can refer to.
How about sovereign dignity?
It's nebulous. You know,
We've got the mic up here.
you're correct, but let's define it. What are going to be the 10 rights that you have as an embodied master? Certainly abundance, certainly biology, certainly to be able to get in and out of experience. What else?
You have the right to choose what you want, what you can have. You can have the right to choose your own reality
Yes.
in whatever way you want.
Yes.
It's the right to choose.
As opposed to,
Well, you can have whatever you want. Or if you don't want, let's see, you can choose to like be enlightened, or you can choose to believe that you don't have a choice, I
Right.
guess. And you can choose to believe that you do have a choice.
but as opposed to what? What would be the antithesis? What would be the other side of that? How do most people live?
Most people don't realize that they don't have the right to choose for themselves and the right to make their own reality how they wish.
Well, they do.
Yeah.
They believe they have the right to choose pancakes or bacon for breakfast.
Right,
And they
yes.
believe they have the right to choose black socks or blue socks, the right to buy a Tesla or a Chevrolet. There's no decision there. So they think they have the right to choose, when in fact they really don't. They don't understand what choice really means.
Yes.
They're lying to themselves, or they're believing lies of others. But the right to choose, let's define this a little bit more. The right to choose.
It's the right. You create your own reality.
Yes.
And so once you realize you can do that, you realize that you have the right to choose.
You have the right to choose how you want to identify, and as we said before, the right to get the hell out of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The right to. We'll rough that in for now, but the right to choose.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Very good. We'll take two more, and then we need to do a short Marab and have
I've
another
got hands
drink.
up, so I'm ready.
So the right to, and this is tied to the one we're having trouble wordsmithing, but the right to mutually nourishing relationships.
Okay. How important is that? Does that, if we only could have 10 things on the board, does that deserve to be up there? Do you
think
have?
so.
Do you
I
have
feel
a?
like it does.
Do you have a good relationship?
I feel like now I have not in the past, and
Right.
now I am more and more experiencing it. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so important.
Why is it important?
Just so we don't get in these energy feeding dynamics.
No. Why is a relationship important? Isn't there a belief on the planet that you've got to be in a relationship, and you got to be generally with one person? Is that lower consciousness? I guess I'm answering my question. and there's a belief on the planet that it has to be the opposite sex, generally speaking. There's a belief that only one other person. There's a belief that that it's got to last to eternity. That's the consciousness of the planet, and that's the very thing that your light is shaking up right now. Perhaps maybe that should be the way reality is, but not my reality. First of all, you don't need a relationship, and then you're free to have relationships once you realize that. And the relationships can be anything, in spite of the laws, in spite of the social norms. They can be anything you want. So there's some real wording in here, poetic wording about the right to the most sacred relationships, starting with self. That's the most important relationship. The right to a healthy relationship with yourself, and then underneath that, the right to relationships with others, as long as they're compatible.
So like healthy
Something.
relationship with self, so you can have healthy relationship with others.
Yeah, but you have a healthy relationship with yourself. Do you think you're going to want a healthy relationship with others? The nice thing is, it doesn't matter at that point. Then you're free to have that relationship. Yes. Take the microphone, please.
Thank you. I think when you have
a healthy relationship with yourself, it's fun to share the joy
Yes, with others.
with others.
Get in, get out.
Yes. I mean,
Well, no, this thing about eternal relation. I mean,
No.
there's religions that practice this, people. They practice it. These are big religions, and you're bonded for eternity. That is one bad-ass oath that you're taking. You know what it's going to take to undo that? You know how many angels we have to hire to bring in to undo the oaths, the eternity, and it's so tedious.
it's not about that, but sharing the joy makes it, multiplies it,
Yes.
and it helps.
Okay, I want to go super overhead consciousness with it in totally redefining what a relationship is. And instead of just looking at it on human to human terms, there's a much bigger definition, which we'll again figure out in the wording here, of what a relationship is. So many people put another relationship first, and everything else comes after that. They're not that important, but they're beautiful once you are free of the relationship virus. Yeah, they're beautiful. But if you're in that old energy, that gnarly, infectious energy of a relationship, they're crap, and they take you from one lifetime to the other, and they pile in the karmic debt, and they're awful. I mean, who am I? I mean, you know what that's like. But then if you're suddenly free of relationships, suddenly relationships goes out of vocabulary. There's no such thing as a relationship. Suddenly you're free to enjoy your freedom in the midst of others.
And sometimes creating with somebody makes it bigger, or I don't know, better.
I have the most fun with myself, I'm sorry to say.
I'm not saying always.
Right. Sometimes, yes. And I love hanging around with my peers at the Ascended Masters Club and you guys. But the way, the lower consciousness of relationships is such a karmic issue and really holds this planet. And it's changing right now. It's changing drastically. But I think just to put a note in here, let's kind of start redefining relationships in our Bill of Rights. You have the right to know old relationships. You have the right to know relationships, which ultimately will bring you relationships. Something like that. Okay, one more, and then we're gonna.
I know in my life I've always wondered how I was going to die, and I feel that it is a right to be able to choose how I'm going to do that.
Thank you. That's so important. The right to die like you want, or the right to a dignified death, and again, will a conscious, dignified death. Absolutely. The way humans die right now is deadly. That's despicable. It's awful. I mean, it's just awful, and there's so much fear in it. And death, you realize, it's an easy transition. You realize it's not scary, particularly if you don't believe in heaven and hell. There's just the continuation of what you're doing, and the ability to have choice and dignity in death is so important. Absolutely deserves one of the top 10 places. Yeah, it's so important, and you never really die anyway. You leave behind this thing, the actual atoms of it, but you can bring the essence back in. So with that, we're going to bring this to Marab. Whew.
Really?
Yes, we're gonna continue. We're gonna continue developing this list, and we'll put out the word to Shambro how all of you online can participate. And this is going to take more than a month to develop. I think this is an end of the year project. We'll continue to refine it. But right now, let's bring today to beautiful Marab. It's really the Marab of overhead consciousness. The bigger picture, the bigger view. It's actually ultimately really just another name for wisdom. People tend to focus on kind of the little stuff. They don't understand the real energy flows, what's really happening in their own life, much less the planet. It's pretty easy actually to rise above that and go beyond even just what the mind is thinking into overhead consciousness, the bigger picture. What's really happening on the planet? It's easy to say right now that, oh, look what humans have done to the planet. The oceans are rising, polar caps are melting, the bees are dying. Look, shameful humans, what you've done. That's a little short-sighted. The big picture is that Gaia is leaving. Leaving because it's time for humans to take care of the planet. Well, it's not a bad thing, and when Gaia is leaving, things are going to change. And maybe the bees, they're going to be replaced by something else. Maybe there's no need for bees. And maybe there's a warming on the planet as part of a cleansing and a changing taking place. And maybe it's all drawing more awareness to the fact that humans are on this planet and they need to care for it. Maybe the overhead consciousness is ultimately humans will start to realize that there's more to life and existence than just the physical body and the 3D reality, the forests and the trees and the birds, and maybe there is a reason why we're here. And maybe that will help them to ultimately understand that it's ultimately all about consciousness and energy. We're a little ways away from that right now, having that kind of understanding, but you can almost see with our overhead consciousness of where things are going. Now, it's not about who polluted what. It's about acknowledging that we infused our consciousness on this planet. We're in our own living, beautiful, beautiful reality of life force energies. Like in an terrarium with everything growing around us, and we infused ourselves here, embodied ourselves in this, and that's what's really happening. Let's not worry about whether 2 inches is melted off the polar caps. It's more about understanding our responsibility to the planet. Overhead consciousness is about really realizing what's happening with humanity right now. Not getting caught up. I see so many of you getting caught up in the small stuff. Saying, oh, it's so crazy out there. Of course it is. There's a lot of changes taking place. Of course it is. But these changes were precipitated by bringing more consciousness to the planet, more light. And now things change, things that were out of balance. Whether it's a financial system, whether it's healthcare. These are all changing, whether it's work dynamics. Look at the change in just, 2.5 years in the dynamics of the work environment. They say that, 25% of the workforce in developed countries just walked out, said no more. And I stand up and applaud. No more of this demeaning work. No more of abuse from bosses and owners. No more. They just walked out. All these changes are taking place. And by the way, in the overhead consciousness, look what's happening. Workers walk out. People who own restaurants, small businesses, manufacturing plants throwing up their hands. They can't get workers. Who's going to do the work? What happens is this brings about robotics, artificial intelligence. That's who's going to do the work. And it's about time. Why should humans be sweating away at menial, degrading, low consciousness jobs with low pay? Enter the robot. Enter artificial intelligence. That's part of the development of the consciousness on the planet. Why should any human do demeaning work? That's what's happening here. That's the bigger picture. Don't get caught in the little stuff. Don't get caught in politics and small details. Look at the bigger picture, where the planet is going. Yes, there are wars on the planet right now also, but there is a bigger picture. First of all, number one would be maybe showing to humans that this whole thing of war and suffering, it's old and it's time for it to go. And then it's also old energies in the ground itself, in the land, that are coming up now, to be released. And sometimes it brings up very old issues, whether it's Ukraine and Russia, whether it's Israel and Palestine, no matter what it is, old issues. But overhead consciousness is bringing this to everybody in this time of very rapid communications and humanity saying, we're done with this. We will not tolerate these wars, this abuse anymore. Let's take a deep breath for the very reason you're here on the planet, to bring that light that will affect change. And then it's up to the humans how they want to use it. But at least you did what you came here to do, shine that light. That's why you're here. And in staying here, and in us going forward into our next series, there are certain rights you have as a master, certain rights that I would like you to acknowledge: the right to abundance, the right to joy, the right to health, the right to be able to create and then uncreate, the right to know thyself and thy soul, the right to laugh, the right to turn everything over to wisdom whenever you choose to, the right to remember who you are, the right to leave the planet whenever you choose, how you choose, the death, the right to clarity. You have the right to clarity, to easily understand and assimilate anything, any energy situation in your life, the right to clarity. You have that right. You have the right to your own energy. It is yours. You have the right to it, where nobody else can interfere, but yet you're timid about that right. Is it really my energy? What do I have to do? You have the right to have your energy serve you however you want. These are some of the basic rights as a master, as an embodied master, to stay on the planet. Let's take a deep breath with that. You have the right to your creativity, your intelligence, your spirit, and your soul. Not to have them out there in the other realms anymore, but right here you have the right to shift into and out of realities whenever you want. You have the right to your own, what you would call your own secret garden, your own place, that you can go anytime you just need to get away. You have the right to go there and to stay there as long as you want, without anybody saying, hey, come back, you got to take care of the world. No, you have the right to that quiet within yourself. Let's take a good deep breath. We'll continue to refine the Master's rights. We want these succinct so we can go forward together so you can know exactly what you're entitled to. And a constant reminder. And you have the right to freedom if you choose. Let's take a good deep breath for all we've done today, for the laughter, the humor, the conversation, the camaraderie, and the remembering. Let's take a good deep breath. And knowing that all is well in all creation. With that, I am Adamus of Sovereign Domain. Thank you.
So with that, just take that good deep breath, and more than anything, let yourself be with this list we're creating of our Master's rights. But no more needs to be said. Just take some good deep breaths and celebrate who you are as we close out this shout with some music. Thank you so much for being a part of this shout. Thank you, everyone.